Senator Corderman, are you ready? Can we get started? Good afternoon, everyone. We are going to get started with our decisions. It's been a crazy afternoon with so many different committees needing us, so we're kind of, I guess we're close to the time we were going to be anyway. So I'm gonna let you start.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Laura Hyde. I'm from Department of Legislative Services, and you have two documents in front of you. The first is a decision document, and then the second one is additional actions. So we're going to go in budget code order. I should mention that we do not have BRFA actions in front of us today. We're going to go in budget code order. So we're starting on the first page. This is page 1 with the Board of Public Works. This is narrative for the Maryland Zoo operational reporting, and the agency concurred.
Move to adopt. Right? Okay. Put your mic on there, please. Yeah. Okay.
On page 2 for the Executive Department Governor, DLS recommends concurring with the governor's allowance, and the agency concurred.
Move to adopt.
Moving to page 3. This item is this is Historic St. Mary's City Commission. The first item is an audit recommendations implementation report. The agency concurred. There is in your yellow packet, there is an additional page.
She moved to concur. You just second.
Page 1.
Yeah, on page 1 of the yellow document.
We're good. Second.
Okay.
Turning to page 4. This is the Governor's Office for Children. The first item is a technical amendment to include bill numbers related to engaging neighborhoods, organizations, unions, governments, and household grant program. The agency response was concur in part. There is a modification to that action. This is on page 2 of your yellow packet.
Madam Chair, I move to modify DLS's recommended action and then adopt.
Okay.
Second. All right, at the bottom of page 4, this is an action that reduces the general fund appropriation for engaging neighborhoods, organizations, unions, governments, and household grant program by $10 million. The agency disagreed.
Motion. Move to reject.
Yep, move to reject.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
And then on page 5, item number 3 is an increased turnover expectancy for 4 positions. The amount changes approximately $88,000, and the agency disagrees.
Reject.
Okay.
Item number 4 on page 5. This is an out-of-home placements report that is in the standard language request. This the agency said concur in part, and then there is a recommended action in the additional packet on page 3.
Madam Chair, we'd move to modify DLS's recommended action and then adopt.
Okay.
Then we're turning to page, let me see, we're on page on the right page here, page 8. This is the Maryland Commission on African American History and Culture. This is reducing funding for health insurance costs, and the agency concurred.
Move to adopt.
Okay.
All right, then turning to page 9. This is the Interagency Commission on School Construction. The item was to concur with the governor's allowance, and the agency concurred.
Move to adopt.
Okay.
And then there is an additional action for this agency. It's on page 5 of your packet. And this is language for the school safety grant program.
Move to
Adopt the yellow page.
Yep, adopted the yellow page.
Okay.
Moving to page 10. This is the Maryland Stadium Authority. DLS recommended concurring with the governor's allowance and the agency concurred.
Move to adopt.
Okay,
Moving to page 11, this is Canal Place Preservation and Development Authority. DLS recommended concurring with the governor's allowance and the agency concurred.
Move to adopt.
okay,
On page 12, this is the state treasurer. DLS recommended concurring with the governor's allowance and the agency concurred.
Move to adopt.
okay,
On page 13, the first action, this is for the Department of Information Technology. This is language for a report submitted for new and ongoing projects, and the agency concurred.
Move to adopt.
okay,
Turning to page 14, this is item number 2. This is 1.5 million for the purpose of Maryland Department of Health Public Services Data Modernization Program for new and ongoing projects for a report, and the agency concurred.
Move to adopt.
okay,
On page 15, item number 3, this is increasing turnover expectancy for $377,000. The agency disagreed.
Move to adopt.
okay,
Item number 4 involves managing for results, goals, and indicators for services for state agency. The agency concurred.
Move to adopt.
Item number 5 at the bottom of page 15. This is a report on plannings for spending cybersecurity funds appropriated in the dedicated purpose account. The agency concurred.
Move to adopt.
okay,
There is also an additional action. This is on page 6. This is for this is language for a report on office security of management within Do It.
Madam Chair, move to adopt this language here.
okay,
All right, then we're on page 17. This is the Department of General Services. The first item is it's language for joint audit and evaluation committee requested budget bill language added for the unit of state government has 4 or more repeated audit findings, and the agency concurred.
Move to adopt.
okay,
At the bottom of page 17, item 2, this is a report for the status of the state center relocation, and the agency concurred.
Move to adopt.
On page 19, this is the actions for the Maryland Department of Labor. The first one, DLS recommended deleting $4 million for the Talent Innovation Program and the Employment Advancement Right Now program, and the agency disagreed.
Reject.
okay,
The second item, DLS recommended deleting funding included in error for the Electronic Licensing Modernization Project, and the agency concurred.
Move to adopt.
okay,
There's also an item in the yellow packet for you on page 7 and 8. This is narrative, creating a work group on prison to honest jobs to study education and training for incarcerated individuals.
Move to add the language here on page 7.
okay,
Thank you.
On page 20, this is MSDE headquarters, Maryland State Department of Education. The first item is a report on accounting practices. The agency concurred.
Move to adopt.
okay,
The second item on page 20 is a request for a report on state education agency federal stimulus funds, and the agency concurred.
Move to adopt.
On page 21, item 3, this is a request for a report on the Maryland Leads program, and the agency concurred.
Move to adopt.
okay,
On page 22, item and 23, so items number 4, 5, and 6 are related. This is to reduce general funds for the school resource officer grant program, and then use special funds, the same amount for that program, and then that would reduce special funds for the emergency preparedness grant, and the agency disagreed.
Move to adopt.
okay,
Then we have an additional action. This is on page 9 of your additional action packet. It's for a request for a report on type 1 diabetes.
Move to adopt.
okay,
Then moving to page 24, this is MSD aid to education budget. The first item is a restriction of $50,000 for 2 reports from Somerset County. The agency concurred, but DLS reports that these reports have been turned in.
All right, Madam Chair, based on that information, I move to reject.
Okay,
Item number 2 at the bottom of page 24, this is a restriction of $500,000 for a report on free and reduced price meal student enrollment counts. And the agency concurred in part.
Art.
Or move to
Okay.
adopt.
Okay,
All right, and then we're moving to item 3. Under aid to education, this is on page 26. The DLS recommendation for a report on the non-public placement program, and the agency concurred.
okay,
Move to adopt.
On page 27, item number 4, DLS recommends a status update on the autism waiver program, and the agency concurred.
Move to adopt.
On the bottom of page 27, item number 5, this is DLS recommends a status update on the P-TECH program, and the agency concurred.
Move to adopt.
okay,
Then on page 29, item number 6, the DLS recommendation was for a status update on MCAP, the Maryland Comprehensive Assessment Program. And there should be a item in your additional packet with a change to that action.
Move to modify the DLS recommendation and adopt that narrative.
okay,
And then on page 30, item number 7, this is the DLS recommendation is a report on COVID-19 federal stimulus expenditures, and the agency concurred.
Move to adopt.
okay,
All right. Now we're on page 31. This is the MSDE early childhood development. So the first action DLS recommendation is for the Child Care Scholarship Program waiting list proposal, and the agency concurred.
Move to adopt.
At the bottom of page 31, this is item number 2. This is also a request for narrative on the Child Scholarship Program quarterly reports, and the agency concurred.
Move to adopt.
okay,
Then on page 34, this is for the Maryland State Library Agency. The DLS recommendation was concur with the governor's allowance, and the agency concurred.
Move to adopt.
Then on page 35, this is for the Accountability and Implementation Board. The DLS recommendation was restrict $150,000 in funds for a report on blueprint programs, and the agency concurred.
Move to adopt.
okay,
On page 37, we have Morgan State University. The recommendation is to concur with a governor's allowance, and the agency concurred.
Move to adopt.
okay,
Then on page 38, this is for the Maryland Public Broadcasting Commission. DLS recommended concurring with the governor's allowance, and the agency disagreed.
Move to adopt.
Okay, on page 39 for University System of Maryland overview, the recommendation concur with the governor's allowance, and the agency concurred.
Move to adopt.
On page 40, we have Bowie State University. The recommendations, the CD University System of Maryland overview for system-wide recommendations. The agency concurred.
Move to adopt.
On page 41, we have Coppin State University. The recommendations, the CD University System of Maryland overview for system-wide recommendations, and the agency concurred.
Move
Okay.
to adopt.
On page 42 for University of Baltimore, it's the recommendation is the same to see the overview for system-wide recommendations, and the agency concurred.
Move to adopt.
Page 43, Salisbury University, and it's the same thing to see the overview, and the agency concurred.
Move to
okay,
adopt.
On page 44, we have University of Maryland Global Campus, see the University System of Maryland overview for system-wide recommendations. The agency concurred.
Move to adopt.
I would just say like page 45, 46, and 47 is for UMBC, Season System Office. And again, it's the same recommendation to see the USM overview and for the system-wide recommendations, and they all concurred.
okay,
Move to adopt all those.
all 3. Okay,
On page 48 for Maryland Higher Education Commission, the first recommendation would restrict $250,000 until a report is submitted regarding the status of Corrections Act actions related to their most recent financial audit.
Move to adopt.
Okay,
On page 49, the second recommendation is just and narrative requesting an annual report on institutional aid, Pell Grants by ESA.
Move to adopt.
okay,
The second action is on the third action on the page is to adopt annual narrative regarding progress towards a 55% completion goal.
Move to adopt.
okay,
I do have an additional item for you in the yellow package on page 15. And this will require University of Maryland System, Morgan State University, and St. Mary's to report on how they will be calculating graduate FTES enrollment.
Move to adopt the additional language.
okay, thank you.
On page 51, we have 80 community colleges. There's a recommendation for a report on developmental education. The agency concurred.
Move to adopt.
We have an
Okay,
additional item in the yellow packet on page 14. Requesting a report on tuition waiver and supplemental services provided by community colleges.
Move to add the additional narrative.
okay,
Right, on page 52, the Maryland Higher Education Commission Student Financial Assistance concurs with submitting the Next Generation Scholars Post-Secondary Outcomes Report by December 1st.
We're gonna move to modify the DLS recommended action and then adopt.
okay,
And on page 12 and on the yellow pages, there's an additional action to withhold $100,000 in funds until the Maryland Higher Education Commission submits the impact of credit completion requirements on financial aid awards for students in the 2023 to 2024 academic year by December 11th.
okay,
Yeah, move to adopt that language. I think I got ahead of
Yes.
myself, sorry.
okay, thank you.
And there's another additional item on page 13 where to withhold $50,000 in funds until the Maryland Higher Education submits a report to the committees containing review of the Office of Student Financial Assistance website to be submitted December 1st.
Yeah, well, I move to adopt that as well.
Okay,
On page 54, we have state support for higher education institutions. Item number 1 is language restricting funds pending report from BCCC on the implementation of the realignment task. The agency disagreed because the report hasn't been submitted since the writing of the analysis.
Okay. Again, based on that information, move to reject.
Item number 2 is instructional faculty workload report from the public 4 years. The agencies concurred.
Move to adopt.
okay,
On page 56, with Baltimore City Community College is again the restriction of funds for the realignment task report that they have submitted. The agency disagreed.
Is this? What page you want to get? I'm
Or
sorry.
page 56.
All right. Did they submit the report already?
Yes, they have.
Okay, we're gonna move to reject since this report's already been submitted. Thank you.
On the item number 2 is a report for the enrollment in Merit Scholar Program. The agency concurred in part. They have already submitted the information for academic year 2022 to 2023. There's an additional item in the yellow packet on page 16, which repeats the request, but removes the request for the academic year 2022, 2023.
All right, I move to reject, but then add the additional, adopt the additional action.
okay. Thank you.
Then, so I think at the bottom of page 52, Micah, can you represent the Next Generation Scholars Action? Before we move on.
Okay, so bottom of page 52 for the Office of Student Financial Assistance, requiring the office to submit the Next Generation Scholars Post-Secondary Outcomes Report. The report should identify the Next Generation Scholars seniors from the 2022 to 2023 and 23 to 24 academic years, and the number of Next Generation Scholars seniors who successfully met all of the eligibility requirements, the number of eligible Next Generation Scholars seniors receiving a guaranteed access award, and the number of seniors who later enrolled in a post-secondary institution of higher education.
Move to adopt.
Okay,
On page 58, this is for Maryland School for the Deaf. The first item is restricting $100,000 for report based on their audit from the Office of Legislative Audits, and the agency concurred.
Move to adopt.
okay,
Action number 2 at the bottom of page 58, the DLS recommends a report on kindergarten readiness assessment scores, and the agency concurred.
Move to adopt.
On page 60, the Maryland African American Museum Corporation concurs with the governor's allowance.
Move to adopt.
Then on page 61, this is Department of Commerce. The first action adds language to reduce personnel expenditures to increase the turnover rate. The agency disagreed.
Move to adopt.
okay,
Item number 2 on page 61. This is just a technical amendment to align the wording of the contingent language with the budget bill, and the agency concurred.
Move to adopt.
Then on the very last page of your packet, your additional actions packet, there is an additional action, which is for a report on findings and recommendations for skips.
So move to adopt the narrative.
okay,
Then on page 62, this is Maryland Economic Development Corporation. It's a non-budget agency, and the agency concurred.
Move to adopt.
okay,
And then on page 63, this is the Maryland Technology Development Corporation. The recommended action was to concur with the governor's allowance, and the agency concurred.
Move to adopt.
that does it. We're good?
Okay.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Can I just add on here, of course, all this, the DLS staff has gone out of the room, but they have just been, all of you have been so great to work with this year, and it's just makes our job so much easier. So thank you for all of that.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Okay.